Hello, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. I'm Ricky Carson, you're the viewer. Let's get down to business. So I am coming off like I have a lot of energy, but fun fact, I do not have much energy at all because last night I slept so terribly. Like I could barely get any proper sleep in, and that had a lot to do with my caffeine intake yesterday because I was feeling a bit kind of sluggish. So I had a big thing of coffee with this mocha chocolate creamer in it, and then I was just like, that's not enough caffeine. So I had a Red Bull, and then I was like, that's not enough caffeine. So I had a half a bottle of those Gatorade electrolyte energy drinks because I had it in the back of my fridge. And then I was like, that's not enough. And so on my way to the gym, I stopped by Walgreens and I got Celsius, which if you guys have never heard of Celsius, it is how can I describe it? It's like liquid, like it's so strong, it's so powerful. And so I was able to go to the gym for 2 hours. I wanted to push myself for 3, but I was like, no, I'm artificial. I'm already tired. All of this energy that I have is super artificial. And so I just peaced out. And then I went home, made food, hung out, applied to jobs. And 2 in the morning came around and I was still pretty wired. But I tried to fall asleep and I couldn't. And normally I have a problem with falling asleep when I have the amount of caffeine I had before I had the Celsius, but I forgot how powerful those things are. When I was working for the Oregon State Legislature, I would have 2, 3 I would have 2 or 3 Celsius a day, which I'm sure was the beginning of cancer causing agents in my body. But I needed it so bad because there was not much to do. So my morning would start out is I would wake up at 4 in the morning. I would go to the gym, and after the gym I would then head to work. And my job was a 45-50 minute commute. I was living in Corvallis, Oregon, and Salem, Oregon is the capital. And so I would need some energy to help me get through the day. And so I would have a Celsius at the beginning of the day, and then midday at work I would have one because you would have all of the tasks that you needed to do usually, unless you were running a committee in the evening, or I mean afternoon, you kind of have everything finished. This wasn't really the case the first few weeks of working for the legislature, but yeah, so most of it, the rest of the day was you just being on standby, and that was so boring. That was so incredibly boring. And then you my mind needs to be active, stimulated, or else it just starts shutting down. I start falling asleep, which is not good when you're when you're on standby. But also you were very restrictive from what you could do. I remember for the first few weeks actually. No, it wasn't even the first few weeks. It was 3 weeks in a row after the first month of working there. Fridays you don't really do much. You're on standby, but that's only if the legislatures want to formulate a committee meeting, or if they need to group together to hash out something in an agenda, or changing future plans. So we all were in the office. We were usually we'd be working in the actual state capitol building, but because Oregon's capital is going through seismic renovations to earthquake proof it, which is actually really cool. I'll go on a little tangent on that actually. So essentially, they have removed the foundation of the building and have created essentially a moat around the base of it. And it's not going to be like a moat that is filled with water and that you can like see above ground. It's going to be covered by like, vegetation, concrete and stuff. But essentially, the Capitol is now being rested on these ginormous walls that when there's an earthquake, the building will kind of like sway back and forth. So our offices would normally be in the building. They were removed to the public service building. Legislatures got to have their offices, but that makes sense because they were doing work, legislative work there. So like, keeping the systems of democracy flowing. So I'm not too butthurt about that, but we were working in the public service building, which is literally just across the street from the Capitol, and we were on the top floor, and so that's where all of our offices were for the Legislative Policy and Research Office, which is the one I was in. But anyway, so like I think after like a month of working there, we realized like, oh, we have all of our work done, and Fridays there's literally nothing to do. We're just on standby. And so what a few of us committee assistants did was, well, I would bring a stack of Uno cards, and we would find like an empty conference room, and we'd play a game of Uno for like 30-40 minutes and then disperse back to our cubicles and stuff. And that was like a really nice stress reliever actually, because there was a lot of stuff that we had to learn in quite a short amount of time. I'm editing this video and I realized that I didn't actually explain where I was going with the whole Uno thing. And essentially is we were playing it for a few weeks, and then office manager was informed that we were doing it every Friday for like 30-40 minutes, and then she came to us and told us that we couldn't do that, but if we wanted to, we could if we wanted to do something to keep ourselves busy, we could go into the head of the office's room and read books or check out different states' legislative sites. Yeah. And also, I had a personal mentor who was, they were very shady. And I'll say they were shady because I was essentially put on the Senate Rules Committee. As a whole, though, I was in the Senate Judiciary and Rules Committee as a committee assistant, but my primary focus when I was first hired was to work for the Rules Committee, and I had a mentor, and should I say their name? I'll say their name. I had a mentor named Sam, and she, like, I don't know what problem she had with me, because I tried being nice. Like, I was always friendly, I was always willing to do work, and I was just genuinely happy to be there because I had always, for years, I have always wanted to work in the in some capacity in the state government. And so when I had this opportunity to work as a committee assistant, I was just over the moon. But it became apparent that a lot of training information I was being given was not always accurate. But I was kind of thinking, but because I was coming from a genuine standpoint, I was like, oh, I guess silly me, I must have goofed. I must have interpreted the rules wrong. But then it started coming to surfacing that no, I was directed to believe this certain thing or to do this certain procedure, and it was just it was it was crazy. It was like I I realized that I was being gaslit by Sam, and that she actually was not giving me the actual like factual details, the accurate ones that I should be the actual ones I should be using. And then it got to a boiling point where I just like reached out to my colleagues and I'm like started going to them for help, because I knew that I wasn't being told the like correct information. And you guys, this is not just any like member, like colleague who like mentor who was like she is the go-to person for all of the information on how to use OLIS, which is like the digital online website for for the legislature, where you're able to look at archival footage, um, um, recording logs and stuff like that. But so she's like she knows everything, and she knows everything more than anyone else, and so she is very invaluable in that way. But I was so sick and tired of like feeling like it was my fault, you know. And so I went to another mentor, and I asked her. I was like, "This is what I've been told." She's like, "That's not right." Had to do with recording log format. Most of my griefs came with recording logs. And if you don't know what a recording log is, just essentially a list of timestamps of when people are introduced, speaking, when a bill is being voted on or discussed. And so there's a lot of minute intricacies of doing that. And you would think that that would be like standard, you think that it's kind of black and white, but there's this one example, and I won't go into detail which this particular example is because I don't want to give them out. The mentor who actually cared about giving me the right information, but essentially they asked in the mentor group chat my question, and immediately Sam responded, and it was a 180 of what she had told me. I was like, and I had gotten back an email from her earlier that morning, where she completely told me the opposite in the correction she gave me for my recording log. So I was just super peeved, but I also felt like vindicated. Like I wasn't going crazy, I wasn't going mad. Like she was actually giving me wrong information. And but unfortunately, before I even like found that out, that she was like systemically giving me the wrong information, I was removed from the rules committee about a little less than 2 months in, which was berserk to me because for the first 3 weeks of session, my committee didn't meet at all because of like political reasons. And so all of my other colleagues were already working on their respective committees. So I was kind of just like stuck doing like repetitive like training stuff that we were doing beforehand, but like anyone who has worked as a committee assistant can vouch, like you can only like study it so much. You need to like actually have the practical skills of like exercising your knowledge that you have accumulated. And so I was like 3 weeks behind, and then when my committee started meeting, they were meeting like 1 or 2 times a week. And so a little less than 2 months into it, I was told by my office manager that I was being removed from rules committee and that I would be Microsoft Teams assistant, which being a Microsoft Teams assistant is like a huge downgrade. Like, it's just essentially you monitoring a live stream of the hearing and making sure like the mics are working, making sure the stream is flowing, which is also so funny because there's a whole like media department in the Capitol whose responsibility that is anyway. Like, it's good to be thorough. Like, everyone who had committee assistants were also having like one or two roles times when they were working as a Teams assistant. But like, I was demoted to a Teams assistant, and I was just like, is it like my performance? And the office manager said that Sam said it was taking me a bit longer to learn stuff. And I'm like, even if that's true, which it's, hey, I don't think it's fair. Like, I haven't had the same amount of time to get familiar with the process, and also I'm not royally messing up. Like, there are many of my colleagues who are having more difficult times running committee hearings, and so I was just like, but like, I was in this age of mine where I was just like, you know what, Ricky, when you were in college, you kind of had a mouth on you. I just now touch my iPad and now something's playing. So I'm going to turn that off. But no, I was like, you have a bit of a mouth on you. You don't really know how to restrain yourself and remain diplomatic. So I just took it on the chin, and I was just like, sure. And so for about 2 weeks, I was doing 6 Microsoft Teams meetings a week, which was like, each one was like an hour and a half of me just like staring at a screen and making sure everything is all right. And I'm just like, I wasn't hired for this. I wasn't trained for this. I mean, I was trained for it, but it was so easy. You just need to know. They just give you a 5-minute rundown, and I'm like, okay, I know how to monitor a screen. So, unfortunately, I was dealing with that, but then another mentor who was kind of mentoring me as well, but had like less, who wasn't like necessarily the go-to, I felt like they probably felt bad about my situation because I was literally like so down in the dumps, and I'm just like so annoyed. I'm like what gives? And so they gave me their one committee that they were staffing. So I would at least have one committee to do every week, and I really was so grateful for that, because otherwise I just was like brutalizing myself, waking up at 4 a.m, going to the gym, drinking Celsius, and then staying in an office where I felt like I wasn't really valued or wanted. So to have that opportunity was a godsend, and so that kind of was like my daily routine for a few weeks. And then a colleague of mine who I have no like ill will towards, like I have more problems with how the office is run, but my colleague, for no fault of their own, had health issues, and so I would end up filling in for them, but my title wouldn't change. And this person also, because they have a master's, was being paid substantially more than I was, even though my competency was comparable, if not more. But so that was kind of like really like I felt like, oh, like over the weeks I've been proving myself more and more that I am capable, and that this should be something that I should be doing exclusively, but that's just not how it was gonna work out for me. So I filled in, I think I did about 2 months worth of filling in. Not 2 consecutive months, but about 2 months in whole filling in. And I always came to the office. I like never missed a day of work. Like I was just like so happy to like be helping in any way I could. And so yeah, I didn't like that I only felt valued and appreciated at work when a colleague of mine was unable to do their job. But also they were able to like work from home, which is so weird because most of your work is like 75% of your work is being physically there. And so they would be like working from home. They wouldn't let anyone else work from home, by the way. We had computers, but they wouldn't let anyone else work from home unless they were like the mentors and stuff, which I thought was really bizarre because it seemed like there was a level of distrust amongst the management and the upper rankings of the office with the temporary work hires. So the Oregon legislature, their full legislature is only 6 months, and it's on every odd year that it's 6 months. And then on even years, it's like a couple months. It's like so little. Anyway, but I'm just like, it just seemed like there was a lot of distrust. And I'm like, you hired us. So if you don't trust us to work from home when it's logical, like, what are you doing? Keep in mind, like, most people who were working in the office did not live in Salem. Most people lived in Eugene, which was like 2 hours away. Most people lived in Portland, which was like 45 to an hour away. And then some people lived in my hometown of Corvallis, which was like 45 minutes away. And it was just weird. It was just weird. But I did overall enjoy my time there because it showed that I was capable of just taking it and keeping my mouth shut. I mean, I'm talking about it now, but like I was really proud of myself because I was so civil and I didn't hint at all, at least overtly, to, management or mentors who were gaslighting me. I didn't express to them that I felt like they were treating me dirty. And it seemed they're a very cliquish group of people. And I had a few colleagues actually who said that they weren't experiencing the same stuff from the same mentor, and that there were only about 2-3 people of color in the office, and if my memory serves me right, like 2 of them were committee assistants. I was one of the 2, and it just seemed hard to not think that maybe that there's a little bit of racism in how I was being treated by this particular individual. But I don't know their heart like that. I don't know them like that, and I fought for the longest time to dispel that notion because, like, how sad that would be. How sad. But like when you're treated the way you're treated and there's not transparency on why I was removed, and also like why I was constantly being fed like disinformation on how to effectively do my job. Like it gets to the point where when your white colleagues are suggesting that might be racism, then you're just like, well, gee, maybe it is. And honestly, historically, that wouldn't be surprising for Oregon. When Oregon became a state, it was during the time of the Civil War. You know, tensions between the northern states and the southern states, and during that time when a state was being admitted to the Union, it needed to be, if it was a free state, it would have to be admitted basically at the same time as a slave state to, you know, keep the dynamic balanced of free and slave states. And so, but Oregon was like the pioneers, the colonists who settled there and wanted to join the United States. They were like, we don't like black people, but we don't hate them that much to enslave them. So let's just put in our constitution that they just can't live here. It's against the law. And if they do move here, we're legally allowed every 6 months to whip them 49 lashes and essentially run them out of town until they're gone. And like, I actually have a lot to say about that and how like black Oregonians' existence is predicated on their neighbors being liking them, like them being like the good guys, like, oh, you're one of the good guys, so you can stay here. But yeah, and then like Oregon also the capital of the Ku Klux Klan, Portland, in the like 1920s 30s, city government was ran with Ku Klux Klan members. The mayor, even the governor, was a Klan member, and so like to entertain the idea that people working in the state government could be racist, or at the very least hold racial prejudices, I think is not out of the question. It's not unimaginable to think about. But yeah, it's so funny that this started with me talking about Celsius and it being like liquid. But I'm glad I like shared this story. I didn't mean to. It's kind of just like a channel of thought that just like poured out. Clearly it's been on my mind. And I think maybe some of you guys would ask me like why I didn't bring it up with the manager, what I was feeling, or, you know, confront. And it wasn't worth it to me. And at the time I didn't know if I wanted to have that opportunity again, like if I wanted to leave the door open to network, because well, at the beginning of my job there, they made it very clear how Oregon is a very small state, especially politically speaking, and that just be aware of what you say and who you talk to, what you talk about, and yada yada yada. And it was particularly daunting because my office is nonpartisan, so you couldn't even like really share your you couldn't share your political beliefs, both in the office, online, and some cases in your personal life. And so I was timid by that, and I just didn't know if me bringing it up was going to be worth it, because there was a clear power dynamic, imbalance of power. And so I was just like, I think I'd rather make a stink about something more important or more pressing than that which maybe it's not the right way to go, but it really I really demonstrated to myself that I can show restraint when I believe I'm being mistreated, which is not something I do in my day-to-day life, and I will never allow myself to be in that position again. But it definitely did a lot of character building for myself, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. So, but anyway, it got to the point where I was like, we didn't have like the Republicans had walked out about like a month till the end of the session. And they were doing Republican stuff, you know, and so, but literally no one in the office could do any work until they came back. And so about a month before the session ended, I was just like, I quit. Now, I didn't quit out of the blue. I had been planning this for about 3 weeks, because simultaneously at the same time I was retrofitting my mom's 2012 Dodge Grand Caravan and making it into a camper van, which I hope to show you guys sometime later in another video. But it was very fun to do that, and I was going to embark on travel across the United States. And so what I did was I started doing the I started retrofitting it, and about a month till my contract would normally end, I quit. There's nothing for me to do, and I didn't feel valued, and there's stuff in my personal life that I needed to kind of get ahead of. Nothing bad, but like my mom was selling her home, and she was moving into a retirement home, and I don't have a relationship with my sister, and my other parent is, so I have two moms. They're no longer together, but my other mom is living her best retirement days in Paris, France. So I just like, there's really nothing for me here anymore. I have friends, I have family, but there's nothing that's gonna ground me here. So I was just like, let's just set off and try finding some answers. And I would love to tell you guys about that story another time, but this video has gotten so much longer, and my phone is an iPhone 10, and it's on its last legs, and it doesn't have that much storage, so we are going to say goodbye here for now. But until then, have a good one, and peace out.